So Pedro Lampreia, let's go with Pedro, says, "Hi Abe, enjoy watching your videos and I love your work. Thank you so much, my friend. Since the last time you did a review of my portfolio, I evolved and would like to know if I'm in a good path and would love your feedback." Okay. Okay, yeah, I remember some of these pieces. Now, yeah, I think I remember this one right here, the Black Death, yeah. Too dark again? It's a little bit on the dark side, Pedro. So, Pedro, couple of things right here, because I've already took a look at your portfolio, so I think we can, like, again, like pinpoint specific things. I've probably already told about like specific texturing things and elements, so let's go with the important stuff. Why do we have a bonsai tree on our thumbnail and not on our main elements? That's a question, right? Like we need to be able to understand why that is happening. We can definitely improve our textures a little bit more, man. Especially with this, like, helmets. Whenever you're doing something that exists in real life, people will compare it to what they look in real life. So if we take a look at some of this, like, samurai helmets, right? Like this one right here, you can see how the material shades. No, that's a 3D print. Go for a realistic one. Yeah, this one is a real one. So you can see how the material shades, how the elements are like rendered and all of these things. They're amazing. I went to one of the samurai exhibitions when I was in LA, and you need to try to transfer that into your pieces. Right now, again, I don't think we're doing it. And it's a very, very easy way to see, for instance, the gold, right? So if you compare, again, I'm definitely going to be doing a short about the gold thing, because people mess this one quite a bit. So if we compare the gold, you can immediately see that it doesn't look like it, right? It looks too yellowish, too like burned out. Same for the details here on the element, like this sort of like metals. It's not really working. So we gotta be very careful in comparing to a reference and trying to match it. I'm not sure if I can do this in post. Let me try. No, it's just picking everything. So, but it's important that you try to match things a little bit closer between the elements, okay? Always watch your reference, man. Actually, let me take a look at something here. Yeah, topology. Yeah, topology is not bad. A little bit dense on certain areas, but it's not bad. Now, the next thing that I'm gonna tell you, Pedro, and I've mentioned this before, not only on your portfolio, this one's really good, by the way. I like it. Very clean. Way better. Nice. I like this. Way better. But here's the thing, Pedro. We need to showcase. Right now, you're giving yourself the title of 3D environment and prop artist. Right now, I see you more as a prop artist because I don't see an environment. We need to see all of this within the context of an environment. So, for instance, if you wanna like continue working on this Winchester, let's look for Wild West environment concept art. And you need to try to do something from the Wild West as an environment art. Now, I'm not telling you, hey, go in and model this whole village, because I know it's going to take a long time to do something like that. But you can definitely try to do like old saloon concept art, right? So if you do the interior of an old saloon, like this one right here, this one does look like a little bit like 3D, but something like this, and then you have the Winchester just lying around. That's how you create stuff, because that's the main issue with people who want to get into environment art. They see a cool piece like this one right here, right? They see a cool piece like this one right here, and then instead of thinking about this as an environment, they start thinking about this as individual pieces, and they do the chair, they do the broom, they do the lamp, they do the another chair right here, they do this cabinet, but they forget about the floor, they forget about the walls, they forget about the windows, and at the end, they don't have an environment. What they have is multiple props that might be very good props, but it's not an environment. So my advice, if you're doing something like this, do the floor first, do the walls first, do the ceiling first, do the doors and the windows and all of these things. Once the room is ready, now you start working on the assets, right? Like the chair and the broom and the clock and all that stuff. Because people, again, hyper focus too much on the cool things, which in this case would be the chairs and this oven right here, and then forget about the simple things. They're like, oh, they're simple, I'll do them later, and then they never do them. So you gotta try and figure out, or you gotta try and think about the big picture first. And I'm gonna give you an excellent example of how this works. imagine a client comes to me and they're like, Abe, I want you to do this scene. We're gonna be doing like a Western thing and we need this scene for a specific part of the shot. And it's like, sure thing, I will do it for you. And then I take a look at the concept and I'm like, oh, this is a very cool chair, I wanna do it. And they tell me, hey, you got 8 weeks. This is important. You got 8 weeks, so 2 months to do the full thing right here. Cool. And then I see this and I'm like, oh, the chair's very nice. I'll spend 1 week on it. And it's like, oh, I really like this prop and this like whole cabinet. And I spent 2 weeks doing these things. And then I'm like, oh, I really like the oven. I'm gonna do like another week on the oven, right? And then at the chair, that's another week or 2 weeks with like these things right here and the lamp and the little skull right there. So I started modeling all of the props and suddenly I've spent 6 weeks modeling everything, all of the props, but I don't have the room ready. I don't have the render. I don't have the atmosphere. I don't have the sort of like main like basic shapes of the whole thing. And it's like, uh-oh, we only have 2 weeks to do everything else. So what's better? It's a better approach to do the whole thing first, and maybe it's gonna take me 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks to do again the ceiling, the walls, the beams, the windows, this thing. I set this into Unreal. I start like laying everything up. And what could happen is, hey, we're in week 7 and I'm still missing maybe this thing right here, maybe this guy's right here, maybe the basket, maybe the oven, but I have everything else. Well, since you have everything else, you can already deliver it and be like, hey, I'm still missing a couple of things. Do we have more time? If you do, cool. If you don't, well, it sucks, but at least you can like deliver something that's workable, right? Like you can just duplicate a couple of assets to fill that space. Even you failed, right? So it's kind of like a safer way to work on the general shapes first and then nail or go down to the more particular stuff rather than the opposite way. So yeah, that will be my advice for you, Pedro. Try to see how you can incorporate some of these assets. Like if this one is a really good one, try to see how you could incorporate this into AC. Let's see some questions. Oh, that's a great one. That's a great question, 3D artist. So Megascans. By the way, there's a huge thing about Megascans because they're changing and we might not have access to them anymore. The problem with Megascans is that they do make people a little bit lazy. So if you are going to be using Megascans, it's fine, especially for environment stuff. But for instance, like this roadside construction, let's say you're doing a construction site and they tell you to do a tractor, right? Like something like this. If they tell you to do a tractor and your modeling and texturing skills are not to the level of what you can get from all of these Megascans, it's just gonna look very weird because the whole environment is gonna look amazing and then the main piece is gonna like suck. So the problem with Megascans is you need to be sure that you can do the exact same level. So actually a good sort of like exercise is something like this. Like try to model and sculpt a like concrete barrier that looks to this level of like detail. Can you do it? If you can, again, you sort of like earn the right to use like Megascans. It's not that you earn the right, but that way you're sure that if you need to model something that's not in Megascans, you're gonna be able to do them. So they're really, really good. Use them, go ahead, especially if they're free, go for it. But as an artist, you should be able to do this thing right here. Like this metal barricade, I would expect anyone who has graduated from a school of 3D or has taken several courses and stuff like that to be able to do something like this. Because if you can't, what's wrong, right? Like what's happening to you as an artist? Like what are you missing? So it's fine to use them, but again, you need to know how to do things like that because yeah, it's just being safe, right? What happens if they ask you to do specific changes or to do a specific like a cone or a specific like hydrant and there's no Megascan for it? Like if you don't find it, then you're not really a 3D artist. You're just someone who knows how to like put assets together. You're more like a layout artist in that case. Yeah, they're gonna be. They say that if you go right now and claim all of them, you should have them when they do the transfer, but we'll see. Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb, Rixu. I agree. If you are certain that you could do it from scratch, use them. If you don't know it, this will be my thought process. Here we go. If you know you can do it from scratch, do it. If you don't know how to do it from scratch, but you know how or what kind of tools you might need, learn them and use them so that next time you know how to use them or do them. And if you don't even know how to approach them, you probably need to learn a little bit more about the 3D world. I mean, if you need to finish a job, go for it. At the end of the day, it's production. It doesn't matter. But I would say it's a good rule of thumb to know how to do this sort of stuff traditionally, not with megaskins. So yeah, that's it, my friend. Go for, that was Pedro, right? Yeah, Pedro, go for a full scene. That will be my advice.